Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, my name is Sahar. I am a rising 3L at the University of Illinois Urbana, Champaign, and I would love to have you as a subscriber. I will also link my social media down below if you would like to follow me elsewhere. I have not filmed a sit-down video, let alone like any video, in a very long time. I think the last video I uploaded may have been either my morning routine or an outfits video during my internship. And I think those are the only videos I posted all summer. I'm so sorry about that, but I'm gonna make a whole video about my like Big Law summer experience, like the good, the bad, the ugly, and really get real with you guys about how my experience was. And so stay tuned for that if you're interested. But in that video, I'll kind of explain why I wasn't really filming anything and basically why I kind of disappeared off the face of the earth this summer. But I'm back and I do have a couple life updates before we get into this video, which I should probably tell you what this is going to be. So I decided that I wanted to film kind of like an advice video for Rising 2L / what I wish I knew before I went to my 2L year. I just thought that it would be helpful because a lot of the videos I make, I feel like are catered towards 1Ls, just people starting their first year of law school and being very open about what law school is really like. And I feel like I haven't really made videos that will help 2Ls and 3Ls. Obviously, I'm not a 3L. I don't know how that's going to be, but I'll make kind of a video maybe similar to this next year. But I did want to put out a video for the incoming 2Ls out there who need some sort of advice or just want to know, like, I don't know, what I wish I knew. But at the same time, I know that every single student's experience is different and I'm only one perspective. So I decided to ask some of my friends for what they wish they knew before 2L and kind of what advice they would give to rising 2Ls out there. And I compiled them. I have notes on my phone and I'm just going to kind of go through. I have a huge compilation of advice to give y'all today. So I hope this is really helpful. But like I said, I wanted to give a couple of like life updates. So obviously there's a fly or a little gnat in my apartment and it's really bothering me. Whatever. So I wanted to give a couple life updates. Obviously I am back in Champaign in my apartment. I went home. What is this little... Do you guys see that? I don't know. I went home to Texas to visit my family for a week and also to pick up my puppy. So I did get a dog. He is currently sleeping. So one, sorry if I'm talking a little quiet. And two, I'll insert some pictures here. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen him. His name's Ollivander, or Ollie for short. Yes, it's a Harry Potter reference because duh. I'm very, very excited about this. I have been wanting a dog for a really, really long time. And I was actually planning on getting one like at graduation so I could train him while I was like studying for the bar and stuff and just have him before I started work. So that was like always going to be the plan, but things happened and it just worked out that I would get a dog right now. So basically the next few months are going to be training him. He's only 3 months old. He is a poodle and I love him, but that's been insanely hectic. Another life update is I'm taking the MPRE next week on Tuesday. So I will probably vlog like me studying for it and me taking it and kind of my experience with that for anyone who will be taking the MPRE in the future. So yeah, those are kind of my couple life updates. And with all of that out of the way, let's chat about some tips or just things that I wish I knew along with what my friends wish they knew before starting 2L. So the first thing that I wish I knew, and also something that one of my friends said, was it really is like what you put into it. Like you can make 2L super chill, or you can make it like insanely crazy busy like I did. I don't necessarily regret any of the things that I ended up doing because I was on 2 teams. I was on law review, I was in 2 student orgs, like in exec positions, and I was taking classes, and it was just it was pretty insane. I was also TA, so I definitely made myself a lot busier than I think you really need to be, but it is, again, like what you put into it. So if you want to have all those opportunities, if you want to gain all of those experiences, 2L is a great time to do that. But at the same time, like, don't spread yourself too thin. I feel like a lot of times I was really just trying to get something done, and I wasn't always proud of what I was putting out, and some things had to be sacrificed. I wasn't able to give my all to some of the student org positions I had because I was focused on obviously like doing schoolwork and also doing law review stuff, like working on my note, because one of my goals was to get my note published. And so I knew I wanted to put in a lot of hours and effort and energy into that. So it's really, you can make it a lot more stressful on yourself if that's what you want to do, but you also have the freedom to make it a lot more chill. And kind of going off of that, a lot of things that some of my friends said, which I'm grateful that I didn't do. So this is why I wanted different perspectives, because I wouldn't be able to share this because it's not something that I actually did, but it's to avoid taking so many doctrinal classes. Now, the thing with this is it's really easy to think like, oh, I can take like 5 doctrinals and it's totally fine, because in 1L you're taking like 3 to 4 depending on what school you're going to, and they're worth more credits. So at Illinois, our doctrinals are 1L were worth 4 credit hours versus a lot, like a large majority of doctrinals 2L and 3L are only worth 3 credits. So it's like less work, and it seems fine like during the semester. Like so many of my friends, like it was super chill. Like yes, it was readings, but like it really wasn't too bad. Where you get kind of screwed over is during final season, because I feel like people don't really think about the fact that taking 5 doctrinals means taking 5 finals. And a lot of my friends ended up taking finals back to back. I had one friend who literally took 3 doctrinal finals like back to back, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And that just is so stressful. Like I feel like it's just so unnecessary. Like there are so many other classes and opportunities out there for you to still hit your credits and like take as many hours as you want. If you really want to take 5 classes, you still can take 5 classes. Just don't take 5 doctrinals or 5 classes that have finals. Another thing that I really am grateful that I did, that some of my friends wish they had done during 2L, was to take more like experiential classes or do things where you're actually getting like legal experience. So do externships, do clinics, do those experiential learning classes, because those are really what build your skills, and that is really what's going to give you a taste of what it's like to be a lawyer. All of the doctrinals, like yes, it may be helpful when you're studying for the bar to take like secure transactions or trusts and estates or whatever it is that you're taking to kind of have some sort of foundation. And I'm not saying like don't take those classes, right? But again, keep in mind like those all have finals. And also at the end of the day, you can learn when you're studying for the bar, like the fundamentals of those classes in order to like just like get by for the bar exam. What you can't just like study and have as a skill set are those classes or experiences where you're doing real legal work. So a lot of my friends did clinic and are going to be doing clinic. I did trial ad. I did a client like interviewing class that I feel like was so helpful, like especially in my 2L summer job. Like this past summer, I actually used the skills I learned in my client interviewing class. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to take those types of classes, or just do externships where you're, maybe if you can get your 7-Eleven license, like do that so you can actually get experience talking in court. Do the clinics so that you can learn, intake, or just like building client like how to talk to a client is so important and not something taught in doctrinal classes. Like that's just not something that you learn in law school unless you seek out those opportunities. And that is, I think, like the most valuable experience that I had all of 2L was taking those types of classes. The next thing I want to talk about is law review, because I just feel like it was so boring. Like, to be honest, I really did not like law review very much. And that's just like a personal thing. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of it. Like, yes, it's a 2-year commitment, so I'm still on law review 3L, and I have like a position on it, but that's because like kind of everyone has to have a position on it if you're a 3L. But at the end of the day, it didn't really help with my job search because I had my 2L summer job before I even knew I was going to be on law review, so it wasn't really something that I needed for my resume. And then 2, I just feel like I didn't really get a lot out of it. Like, yes, it was really cool that I have my note published, or it will be getting published next year. That's really incredible. So like for that alone, I'm glad I did it. Like, I don't regret doing law review, but I just feel like it was so many hours and not a lot of reward. I got 1 credit hour for it, which is 45 hours every semester. Like, that's kind of how much you have to log. And I think I spent like over 100 hours both semesters. And so I just feel like I did not get the credit that I deserved. Neither did anyone else. Like, it's not really fair, to be honest. And I don't know why school administration does that. I know some schools don't even get credit for law review. It's just a volunteer thing, which is just absurd to me. But it was just so tedious, so boring. Like, every Tuesday night I was spending hours at law review site checks, and it was just, I don't know, it was whatever. So take that for what you will. Like, I think if you're still trying to secure a summer job, I think law review is probably great and helpful on your resume, but don't do it just because everyone says that that's something you're supposed to do. So really be intentional about law review if that's really something that you think will be helpful. I will say, if you are applying for clerkships, absolutely do law review. Like, it is so crucial if that is the route that you're taking. But for other things, I think just really think about it. Another piece of advice that some of my friends said, and something that I also want to relay, is that student orgs and just extracurriculars take up a lot more time than you think they will, even though they're not graded. So like I said, I was in 2 student orgs, like exec positions, and then I was also on 2 different teams, and they took up so much time, especially like the teams. Like, I kind of knew were going to take up time just because like you're competing, so it's kind of inevitable that you're going to be putting in a lot of time during the semester. But for like the student orgs, for some reason, it was just like the last thing that I wanted to do, which sucked because I'm very passionate about the 2 student orgs that I was in. But just because of everything else on my plate, like, it just took up so much more time than I thought it would, and I just wasn't able to give it my all. And that goes for like anything that you're doing outside of just school. Like, it takes up a lot more time than you think it will. So again, with the whole like really plan out your 2L year and strategize and prioritize, because otherwise you'll be like me and stuck doing so many things, and it's very stressful. Again, I don't regret anything I did. I had an incredible 2L experience, and I'm very happy with how everything panned out, but not everyone is psycho like me, so just think about it. Another thing that I wish I knew before I started 2L was the kind of lack of motivation that would hit. When you're a 1L, you have so much energy, right? Like, you're like a new puppy. Like, you're just bursting with energy. You have so much excitement. It's a new chapter in your life. Like, you've been waiting to go to law school, and now you're finally here, and it's great. And you have so much motivation throughout the year. I just feel like you're kind of living off of this adrenaline and this like fever dream of like during 1L. And it was great for motivation. That runs out pretty quickly because during 2L, I found that I was not motivated like 90% of the time. And it was really the like habits and the self-discipline I developed in undergrad and just during 1L that kicked in, because I did not want to do anything like ever. And obviously that won't cut it, especially with all the things that I was doing. So make sure you have good habits down before 2L starts, because it is really hard to trudge along, I'm not gonna lie. And I know that so many people have felt similarly. I was not on top of it with my readings most of the time. Like, I wasn't reading like a few days ahead. Sometimes I was literally reading during my lunch break before my 1:30 class, and that's just like not something I did during 1L like at all. I was always a few days ahead on the reading. I started studying for finals like a month out. This time did not really happen very much. Or I like started studying, but I really wasn't being intentional about it because I didn't want to do it. So just something to be mindful about, that motivation is lacking during 2L. I don't even want to think about what it's going to be like during 3L when you're like kind of just waiting to graduate. A few little like small things that don't really require that much explanation, but it is something that I wish I knew. One, the 2L, 3L curve is so much nicer than the 1L curve. I know most schools are like this, where 1L is curved lower than 2L and 3L classes. I don't know why they do it like that. Like, just make everything the same, but whatever. And honestly, it is really, really helpful. Like, I feel like I was just so stressed out about finals and grades and stuff during 2L, and like the same amount of stress that I had during 1L, even though the curve is better. So you really don't have to like stress as much about it. So it's nice, okay? It's like a little reward. And then another thing to keep in mind is, at least at my school, and I'm sure it is like that at like every other school, once you're a 2L, you're taking like elective classes essentially, and like upper level classes, and you're taking them with 3Ls. And so the class dynamic like shifts a lot. Like, when you're in the classroom, it just like feels weird. Like, the vibes are kind of off. Not that the 3Ls last year were like bad by any means. I was friends with a lot of them, but it's just different, right? Because in 1L, you're just with the 1Ls. You have your section, that's who you take your classes with all the time. And now you're kind of like, you kind of break free, you're like in the wild, and it's a strange feeling to get used to, because now you're in classes with people that you don't really interact with as much, or didn't really interact with as much in 1L. So it's an interesting shift that I noticed. And then the last piece of advice that I didn't really need, because I'm not applying for clerkships, but one of my closest friends is, and she said that what she wishes she knew before she started her 2L was to take some sort of like upper level writing class where you would get a writing sample, because now that she's applying for clerkships right now, for like post grad, her writing sample is still her 1L brief, and it's just kind of outdated and not really a reflection of what her writing looks like now. And that's the writing sample that she has been using to apply to clerkships. So she wishes that she had taken some sort of writing class during 2L that would give her an updated writing sample. And I think that's great advice if you're, applying really to anything. Like, if you are trying to secure like a 2L summer job or a post-grad job or whatever it may be during your 2L. Well, I guess you wouldn't really be doing your post-grad job during 2L. So your like summer job, or like whatever you're applying to, so many times, like 9 out of 10 times, they will require a writing sample. It would just be nice to have something updated that would show off your skill sets, and wouldn't be something that you wrote 1L when you were still learning how to write in a legal fashion. So I think that's great advice. Again, I didn't really need to use it because I wasn't applying anywhere where I needed to give my writing sample, but that is something to keep in mind. So there you have it. That is all of the advice that I have for incoming 2Ls. I really, really hope that this was helpful, and that bringing in some of my friends' perspectives was also helpful, because I just feel like a lot of these things, like I said, I didn't really even think about, but I know would be helpful to you guys who are in similar boats as them rather than me. So whatever. I don't need to explain. I just hope that this was helpful. And yeah, that is going to be all for today's video. I am planning on filming a lot more now, and I'm going to be vlogging again and hopefully balancing that with my puppy. So yeah, I hope you guys are having a wonderful morning or night wherever you are, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!